What is Hawkman's favorite day of the week? Fly Day. Since I moved to my current residence almost a year ago, I haven't done any comic book hunting in the surrounding communities. But that's changed in the last few weeks, and in today's Comic Book Editions Volume 148 video, I'm going to share with you some recent back issues, Marvel and DC, primarily Bronze Age, that I've added into my collection. Thanks for stopping by today. Why don't we get started with The One That Got Away? You might have seen me post this on Instagram. I went to Cowabunga Comics, which was about a 45-minute drive for me. I bought from them at different comic book conventions in Madison throughout the years, and I knew the owner, James, but I never had actually been in the store. I was so excited to get in there. When I walked in, it wasn't what I was expecting. It was better. This was just how I like my comic book stores to be. But imagine my surprise when I saw a Wonder Woman #1. And I saw it just sitting on the steps. I couldn't believe it. Now, I've shared this picture on Instagram before, but I wanted to talk about it now. It literally made my heart skip a beat when I saw it. I don't remember being that excited over a comic book before. The book was incomplete, but man, did it present well. It had a beautiful front and back cover. And if it's graded like that, I mean, it doesn't bother me that there's nothing inside because I'm not going to be popping open the slab to look at it anyway. Oh, I wish I could have came home with it. But just to get to hold it, oh, that feeling, it still sticks with me right now. Maybe someday. I even bought some scratchers afterwards, hoping that I could win enough money to go back, to turn around and drive back and buy it again. So, I hated to put it back, but it was awesome. And I didn't know the book was going to be there, so I think that even makes it a little bit more special. When I remember seeing it, and I said, this isn't what I think it is it? And it was. So beautiful. As I said, the store was absolutely amazing. They had a wide selection of back issues, which I love, from Golden Age up to modern. And I always am curious, what's that first book going to be that's going to make me actually stop and say, nope, I'm buying it. Now, I saw a lot of books that I was like, I'm interested in that. I'm interested in that. I'm not one to start a pile and then whittle the pile down. Pretty much once I pick it up, it's a given that it's coming home with me. But the first book that I saw that made me go, nope, I am not going any further. I don't want someone else to pick this up. I don't want to forget that this was here. I have to have this book, was this. So this is Superman 252 from 1972, complete cover by. I've known about this book for quite some time. This is also known as 100-page Super Spectacular DC 13. That's its secondary title. This book is all reprints, pretty much Golden Age reprints too. There's one story in there that has, I don't really remember this story, and I haven't read this yet, so I'm anxious to get to this story, but Sierra Hall tries on Hawkman's costume and gets mistaken to be Hawkman, and kind of gets captured, and the real Hawkman has to rescue her. I guess I forgot that she wasn't just Hawkgirl / Hawkwoman from the very beginning. I had forgotten that. This is a wraparound cover, beautiful Neal Adams cover. And here you're now seeing what the wraparound looks like. It's a salute to the flying superheroes, which is an interesting theme, I guess, to have for the book. Some of the characters that are on the cover I don't think appear in the story. Like, I don't think there's a Supergirl story. I don't think there's a Red Tornado story. And speaking of Hawkman and Hawkgirl, okay, so they're on the front part of the cover and they're on the back part of the cover too. What's up with that? Unless one's supposed to be Earth 1, Earth 2 versions. Maybe that's it. But yeah, I had to have this book. I've known of this cover for quite some time, and every time that I knew that I wanted it. But every time that I've kind of found the book, it's been a little bit out of my price range. This time it was not out of my price range, and that's why it was the first book I instantly snapped up and said, nope, not going any further without having this book in my hand. And I'm looking forward to reading it too, but it really was that beautiful Neal Adams cover that sold me on why I wanted to have this. When I first started looking through the back issues, I saw some recently added back issues. That's the box that I started with, and they had a fair amount of Superman's girlfriend Lois Lane, so I knew I wanted to get one of those. I ended up getting issue 99. They had a couple copies of this, and this was the one I thought was in the nicest condition. So this story is interesting. Lois and Lana are being interviewed on TV about who loves Superman the most, and the host is kind of, pitting them against each other. They're driving back, they're in the same car, they get into an accident on a bridge. Lois survives and Lana doesn't. And then it's determined that Lois could have saved her, but she didn't. So that's why she goes on trial, with Superman prosecuting her and Batman defending her. Now, isn't that a wild Silver Age story if you've ever heard one? I think this is 1970, if I'm remembering correctly. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with my Lois Lane collection. And when I say that, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to collect from. And I think I might collect from 100 on up. And if that ends up being the case, well, then it will be 99 on up. Now, I do have a few issues even earlier than 99. Not many, though. But I definitely want to do 105 on up, because that's when the Rose and Thorn backup story started. And I have a lot of those to the end of the series before it merged into Superman's family. But I think I might end up doing around the 100 range or so on up for my Lois Lane collection. And then anything else that I'm able to get into the collection would just be icing on the cake. Let's show you some Marvel that I picked up. You know that I've been working on the Bronze Age Daredevil, especially the part that features Black Widow, either as a guest star or a co-headliner or a Black Widow appearance. Those are the ones I'm really working on. This is Daredevil 110. And what was interesting is, digitally, I had read Marvel 2-in-1 number 3 a few days before I went to the store. I don't have Marvel 2-in-1 number 3, which is the thing in Daredevil. That story takes place right before the events of this issue, and I didn't know that when I picked up this issue. So the timing was really good on that. Another great story. I'm really enjoying these two. Has a Marvel value stamp. It is Bucky Barnes, if I'm remembering correctly. And of course, one of the coolest letter pages that I can ever think of. The title of the letter page is Let's Level with Daredevil. And this issue features Stan Lee just hitting the nail right on the head and saying, you might realize you had to pay a nickel more for this issue, and inflation, and here's why. Nowadays they just jack the price up and hope you don't even notice, which, trust me, publishers, we always notice. But back then they really addressed it, and so this is the first issue that went from 20 cents to 25 cents. Oh, if they were only that today. Great story. Really enjoyed this. Artwork was really good on this too. I've been working on my Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man comic books, and we have another, which will probably be the final of my Spectacular Spider Haul videos, coming up later this month on my YouTube channel. This is Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man number 68. And me picking up this book means that I had a consecutive run of 67 through 97 then. And there's other consecutive runs that I have too, like 1 through 55. And I'm just trying to fill in the holes, what I have right now, so I can keep getting more consecutive runs going, which was one of the reasons why I picked up this book. The other, it was a good story. That's one thing I really like about the Bronze Age. Sometimes they're just one-off stories. And I know that they tried to give the writers more freedom to write for a trade paperback, back in the 90s or so, and not just make one-off stories. But there's nothing wrong with making a one-off story. Nothing wrong with that at all. Tell a good story regardless of how many issues it takes to tell it. That's what I say. This is another one of those good Bill Mantlo stories. He wrote that, and if you can tell in previous Spectacular Spider Haul videos that I've done, I've really enjoyed his writing. So this was just another good book for me to pick up. The Avengers 226 I picked up. Artwork is great on this. Greg LaRoque. I like Greg LaRoque. I'm a fan of his son too. He did the cover and the interior. Now, this is the era of Avengers with She-Hulk as a member, and I really want to have all of those issues. Of course, I like She-Hulk. I didn't buy the previous issue or this issue when they were new on the newsstand back in the day. The story just didn't look appealing to me. I'm not the biggest Black Knight fan in the world. He's okay. There's a little bit of Black Knight I like and some that I don't like, but this story just never seemed appealing to me. Now, I picked up 225. I don't know, a year and a half ago or something like that, and showed that in a previous comic book editions video. But I needed 226, and like I said, the artwork was great. It just wasn't my favorite story. 225, 226 is a two-part story, and 225 wasn't one of my favorite ones either. One thing I did like in here, though, Black Knight is fighting with this group of Avengers. A lot of, some of them he doesn't know. And he's like, where is Hercules? Where's Scarlet Witch? Where's Vision? They're the Avengers that I wanted. Where are they? And I thought that was kind of funny that he would think that, because that's true to character form of what a character would think of. Got the cover. Is it going to be a big reread in my collection? No, probably not. And one final book, besides some AOKs that I picked up, that I've sent out to WarLord, James. I picked some up at that store. I did pick up an Adventure Comics with Supergirl, because I am working on that run too. And Adventure Comics number 391 is one that I needed. I think this cover is great. What's interesting about this is I was telling Copy 801, that I just got another Adventure Comics Supergirl. He's a big Supergirl fan. He's like, which one did you get? So I showed him, and he's like, he had just gotten the foreign edition version of this book the day before I did. So that's kind of an interesting coincidence. Nice condition this book is. There's 2 stories in there. I think this is 1970. Robert Kanigher wrote the first story, which is what the cover is taken from. So at this time, Linda Danvers was an actress, and she gets cast as Supergirl in a movie that they're going to make. And in typical Robert Kanigher style, typical early Bronze Age style, in about every other page, you get something like Supergirl saying something to the effect of, oh, if the director only knew that I, Linda Danvers, am really Supergirl. Or then 2 pages later, it's like, as Supergirl, I've done this stunt 1,000 times, but I can't let the director know that Linda Danvers is Supergirl. I mean, they just keep running that gag like 8 times in the first story. Second story, which is not a Kanigher story, I think it's a Carrie Bates story, wasn't really good at all. Kind of hard to follow. It's about Supergirl ended up stranded on some different planet, some different solar system or planet or something, and she can't get back to Earth, but a Linda Danvers double took her place that has some weapon that causes people to just become angry, and she goes to this university protest, and that was a peaceful protest and just angers the students, and it just wasn't that good of a story. I think this is a great cover, though. She's, the director saying, look, the wires snapped during the flying scene. The actress playing Supergirl will be killed. And Supergirl saying, what a spot. Everybody thinks I'm just playing Linda Danvers, but if I survive this fall, they'll know I'm really Supergirl. What can I do? And this cover scene actually takes place in the story. Sometimes you get a scene that's not necessarily what's in the story, but this one does appear in the story. So these were some great pickups from Cowabunga Comics. I definitely will be going back. I want to start making it at least a monthly excursion to pick up some back issues, and I could have literally spent all day in there just rifling through all the different stuff to see. And besides comic books, they even had some vintage posters that I liked. They had action figures, they had statues and cards and all sorts of fun things, and new comic books too. So loved going there. Just felt like I was at home when I was there. I have some other books to show you as well in a moment, but first I do want to remind you, if you're new to my channel and haven't subscribed yet, to please do that. It's a great way to show support to my channel. Hitting the like button is another great way to show support. Make sure to leave me a comment too. And sharing this channel or this video with someone that you think might be interested is another great way to show support. I thank you for everything you do. We're at Comic Book Editions Volume 148 today. Coming up this month, we'll have Volume 150. I have a few things in play that I've been saving actually since April to do in that 150 video. And I'm trying to see if I can come up with some other stuff too. I'm not sure how much we're going to have, but I'm going to try to do something a little bit different, a little bit more fun, and definitely put at least one key comic book in that video too. One that, honestly, I didn't think I would get. It's another one of those situations. I'll give you a hint. It's a Marvel book. So we'll talk about that in Comic Book Editions Volume 150 in a few weeks. Right now, I have 2 more books that I want to show you. It's from a different comic store, probably the closest one to me. It's about a 15-minute drive or so, very tiny store. It was an okay store. They didn't have a lot of, their back issues, I should say, were from maybe the last 10 to 15 years or so. There was a small section of dollar books, that had a couple Bronze Age in there, and that's what I picked out from the Dollar Bin books from that section. The first one is Hawkman Volume 2, Issue number 13. Richard Howell did this cover. He did the interiors as well, and I think this cover is awesome. I just love this cover. So the second volume of Hawkman lasted around, I think, 17 issues, if I'm remembering correctly. I had stopped collecting comic books just overall from being an original childhood collector during this run. So I think there's 4 or 5 issues that I'm missing, and this was one of them. So for $1, and it was in great shape too, and this cover was hard to say no to, that was an instant pickup for me. And one more Hawkman comic book that I found is issue 15 from volume number 2. So I'm going to pick these up. Like I said, these are just dollar bin books, and they're easy to find. I want to get the rest of them and just complete this collection. I haven't read these 2 Hawkmans yet, and I haven't read really or reread any of the volume 2 books that I've had from my original childhood collection in quite some time. So that would be fun to sit down and just do. At some point, we need to feature Hawkman on Fanboys Live and the Retro Review, because that's definitely an overlooked character that we need to feature. So this is the last 75-cent issue of Hawkman as well, too. That's pretty much the only note that goes along with this book. So that's kind of my haul for today. Out of all of the covers that I showed, which one was your favorite? I always love knowing that, so make sure to leave a comment below and we can dialogue about that or anything else that you want to. Thanks for making it to the end of this Comic Book Editions video. Don't forget to check out our Back Issue of the Week YouTube short that just dropped yesterday. So that's on my channel. We'll have Fanboys Live and the Retro Review coming up this weekend, and that kind of catches you up on everything that's going on here on the Magic Lasso channel. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll catch you next week for our next video. Take care.